Hello everybody, this is the Vikstrand. Today we're going to take a look at the movie Triple Cross. Well, now when I saw this movie I was just a kid and I thought that this was one of the best movies of the 1960s. Now when I rewatched it after a very long time, I just think it is one of the good movies that was made in the 1960s. It has a lot of hurdles to clear. I don't know what's happened exactly. Have I changed? Was this movie not as good as I just remember, or was it just because that, I watched so many movies, in the very long gap in between, the first time I saw it and the last time I saw it. Debatable, but let's just say that I found this movie way more quippier. I found this movie way more entertaining and funnier and more clever than when I rewatched it for the purpose of this review. But this does not make this movie a bad movie. I just had to remove a lot of points in the ratings for it, but it still is, by and large, a very good piece of 1960s nonsense business. Let's take a look at what this movie is all about, shall we? This is Triple Cross. Eddie Chapman, played by Christopher Plummer, is a jewel thief. He, clears out movie theaters and, rich people's houses and stuff like that, and, cracks safes and stuff like that. But eventually he's caught. And he's caught on the British island of Jersey, just before the Nazis come to occupy it. Remember that Jersey was one of few places on the British island that actually was invaded by the Nazis. And at this time, Chapman is serving a 15-year sentence for, all the robberies that he has taken place in. And ever the opportunistic fellow that he is, he tells the Germans that I want to be a spy, I want to be on your side. What has the British ever done for me? Except, sending me to a 15-year in prison. And he just wants to join the Nazis, not because he's ideologically, convinced that they are doing the right thing or anything like that. He just wants money. And at first, the Germans are a little bit, should we really trust this guy? He seems a little bit too eager to join us. Might, the British have planted him, but Eddie, however, is very good at selling himself, and he's very good at, convincing people, of what he's doing is the correct thing and stuff like that. So they accept him and they train him to be a spy. And then he's being sent into the UK, and the first thing he does is go immediately to the British and say, hey, sign me up and make me a double agent and pay me some money. So he starts working for the British government and becoming a double agent in exchange for, some money, and also that his criminal record is to be erased. So this is essentially the story of Eddie Chapman, who apparently was a real person, and it is based on, a book that was written about him years after the war. I don't know how true this is to what actually happened, and frankly I don't care that much. It is a fascinating little tale about espionage and stuff like that, and I love espionage movies. This movie, however, has a couple of problems to clear. First, this movie tries to be two things at the same time. It both tries to be a tense spy movie, and it also tries to be a light as a feather agent movie in the James Bond-esque tradition. It is directed by Guy Hamilton, who is of course responsible for some of the earliest Sean Connery James Bond films. So it cannot quite balance this one out. Do either guy. Either do this as a very quippy, very entertaining, almost war adventure-esque type of a gentleman spy movie, or make this an Hitchcockian, very tense, filled with dread and frightened of being exposed or anything like that, as a hard spy movie. But they tried kind of to do the same thing at the same time, and it didn't quite work out as well as it should have. This movie also suffers greatly for having, maybe this looked really great in the mid-1960s, but this looks like a TV movie, especially when it comes to the few little battle sequences and war sequences we get. It doesn't feel, like this big, massive war picture. It feels like a, you know, TV movie or something like that. Maybe that is why this movie doesn't feel as big or as good as the first time I saw it, just because it was so big back then, but now it feels kind of small. And if you're comparing this one to other movies made in, you know, the same area, like The Guns of Navarone or The Longest Day or something like that, they look massive, they look enormous. Even today, this one, not so much. I like Christopher Plummer. He's very charming, he has lots of charisma, and he's surrounded by lots of other people that are very charismatic and have, you know, fun little side characters, like Yul Brynner, who plays this high-ranking military officer whom he, you know, shares lots of screen time with. Also, we have Gert Fröberg, who plays a brash and very loud police officer who, you know, always suspects him for doing something, but I'm gonna get you. By the way, Gert Fröberg is of course mostly known for playing Goldfinger, another connection to James Bond. I will say in the end that it is an entertaining movie. It has a lot of fun little small sequences. It also feels a bit like this is a mini-series that has been squeezed into a feature-length film. At the same time, it feels like they're holding back and rushing at the same time. So the pacing of this movie is not great. Another thing this movie lacks is authenticity. I never felt like I was there. I never felt like I was in Britain and, you know, in France back in World War II and watching all these events taking place. Speaking of that, this movie is also settled with the fact that you have to, you know, hammer home that this thing has happened, now this thing has happened, now this thing has happened. Now for an history interested person like myself, it was a little bit, yeah, I know, and it's, you know, handled rather clumsy, and the movie feels a little clumsy sometimes, but I can look past it because it is a very entertaining movie, and some of the jokes they actually tells are very, very funny. Especially the finale of the movie is actually really, really entertaining and amusing, and you're saying, oh Jesus, you got him. Watching Triple Cross is a bit like pulling on an old cardigan. It may not look as appealing as it once did, but it still gives you some comfort, and if you want to feel very comfy, you do watch Triple Cross because it is an entertaining movie. It is a little bit of a nonsense movie, but I just wish they could have either made this into more of a hard-hitting, cold spy movie or a more quippy, almost war adventure style of a movie. Now they kind of try to do both and it quite didn't work. Pretty good acting, elegant and entertaining. I give this movie 58 points. It is a good movie, and the parts in it that is good, they are really good, but we also have to suffer a lot of hokey bullshit to get to it, and sometimes we have these bits where the movie kind of goes into a standstill, or where they have to explain too much, or in some cases too little, and I'm just sitting there thinking, can we move along please? So I'll see you next time for, well, so-and-so reviewing, well, such and such. Thank you for watching. Thank you very much.